What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Outside the Clutch. Tonight, I'm getting to talk to a friend that I've had for pretty much since the beginning of my time here in the industry. I've had the pleasure of going to his house and seeing his collection firsthand while I was a truck driver, and he's been one of those you could always lean on, and someone that's really making waves within the industry over the last couple of years. Super excited to invite Nick from Renowned Reptiles. What's going on, bro?
Hey, man, how's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
Doing well, man. Thanks for inviting me on here. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. How's that Cali life treating you right now?
It's all right. It's we didn't get a lot of rain, so worried about
Mm.
another drought fire season, but that seems to be the par lately. So
Right.
I was just up in Truckee, which is by South Lake Tahoe, on Thursday this week, and there's not a lot of snowpack up there, which is not a good sign. So looking like another dry year here in California.
That's unfortunately the norm over there, it seems,
Yep.
especially the past. Well, I mean, I don't know. I know the past 5 years where I've actually paid attention to California for shows because our travel kind of goes
Yeah.
around the shows. That's unfortunately the norm. But yeah, man. Why don't you just dive into it and tell us a little bit about you and a little bit about Renowned Reptiles?
Yeah, so my name is Nick SJOL. I've been breeding seriously for, say, about 7 years now. Um, I got my first ball python when I was 10 years old, and I've told this story several times. My mom got me a snake. It was already an adult. It was 6 years old when I got it, and I still have him. So I still have the first pet I ever got. His name's Monty Python. He's the original OG, and yeah, he still lives well.
It's huge.
No,
No,
regular
that's not the
size.
one I was thinking about.
No, you're thinking about the giant female normal that I have. Yeah.
Yeah, she was like the size of your wingspan.
Yeah, I need to get a bigger scale so I can see what she actually weighs.
So 7 years, and you've been packing it on pretty heavy the last couple of years. I want to say the last 2 or 3 years,
Yeah.
you've really kind of found your niche inside ball pythons and like what you want to work with. I think it's kind of funny too, because like when you first started, you were more towards the light jeans, and then you can watch it in waves through like your Instagram and your Facebook and stuff, and you've like productive, or what's the word? I can't even speak right now. Progressively. Dirt to dirt to dirt. Hey, I know some English. Well, you know. You've progressively gone more to the darker spectrum of things, which I think has added an amazing contrast to your collection.
You know, you point that out and you're correct, but I have not really thought of that until now. Like now that I sit back and think of it, it took me a little while to figure out what I liked. You know, so I was buying things that I thought were cool that people were talking about, or always trying to chase the next hot thing. But you're really chasing a never-ending goal there if you're always trying to buy into the next hot thing. There are many lanes in ball pythons, many lanes. For every gene, there's a lane.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And multiple people can work it. And so you got to kind of find what you like and what's going to keep you passionate about it, because once you get there, and I'll use the Batman as a great example. I bought a leopard spot nose back in the day, you know, from a veterinarian in Florida, I believe, for like $1,200. No hets, nothing. Bred it to a clown that I had, held back. You know, finally, after years of breeding, made a Batman. Right. This last year, yeah.
Yeah. I remember when you hit it, you're like, fucking finally.
Right. Exactly. Like it took forever. And by then, Batmans are pretty darn common. And now there's Pompeii, you know, crazy Batmans out there. It's just, if you're chasing a tail or you're chasing someone else's dream, you're just not going to get it. You know, and a lot of people aren't showing all their cards. They drop this cool snake that just happened. But really, at the end of the season, what's going to drop is the crazy thing. You know, it's what they've really been working on. And so I think finding your lane is really important, and it takes time. And so it took me a few years to kind of figure out what I really liked and what always kept my interest, what I was always excited about. And it really, I think, started with GHI is a good one for you. And then when I got introduced to Blackhead, that really tipped the cap for me, because every clutch with Blackhead that you hatch, there's babies that you didn't think were going to look like that. You know, it's a surprise all the time. And then it gives you this whole nother spectrum or ideas of cool things you could do with the gene. And so I decided kind of, or I guess categorize myself as I was the dark, busy guy. You know, I wanted to do that. And some of my local, you know, friends here, James Reptile Gyms jokes around, calls me the Prince of Darkness or whatever. And just because I bring a bunch of darker animals to the shows and stuff. And
sorry,
I've been called worse. So yeah, I'll take it.
Oh man, that's great.
But yeah, so I've been really passionate about animals my whole life. You know, obviously I was one of the many people who Steve Irwin was their hero, not a sports figure. How, you know, I'm into sports, but that wasn't what I looked up to. You know, that was a regular person that was good at playing sports to me, where Steve Irwin made a difference, you know, and had an impact on the planet. And so that's the kind of people, you know, that you look up to. So I was definitely that kid, always putting things in my pockets and terrifying my mom when she did laundry. Yeah, so catching things and bringing them home, and she'd come home and we'd have a goldfish tank, and there'd be giant tadpoles in it all of a sudden that I brought home from the creek. And so little things like that. And then you learn about it should stay there. And so I'd always kind of kept reptiles here and there. I bred leopard geckos to start. We kept chameleons, tortoises, that sort of thing. Just kind of dream animals that I wanted to keep and kind of perfect husbandry. And then one day I went to a pet store here in Auburn, California, a little mom and pop pet store. And I think I saw an albino. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I didn't know they had those in ball pythons. I've had a ball python for, you know, at that point, 20 years, whatever, 25 years. And then he's like, oh, you like those? And I go, yeah, you know, I've kept mine forever. And he's like, come in the back. And no one, you know, took me in the back of a pet shop. I'd never done that before. And he showed me racks. And I was like, what are these? And he opened them. And there was like a pied, and there was a spider, and there was all these different common genes in there. And it blew my mind. I didn't know that what I had been keeping, you know, successfully for many years, and was like a part of my family, really had all these cool color mutations to them. And it just blew my mind. And right then, like, obviously you start trying to search stuff on the internet, and it just snowballed from there and kind of took off. But it took me a little way to find my way. And I, you know, through making good friendships in the community and attaching yourself to the right people, you know, you get some good intel, you learn some things, and you get some good opportunities at projects, you know, that you maybe wouldn't have by siloing yourself and kind of staying in your rabbit hole.
Absolutely. So I think one of the biggest things is finding mentorship, regardless of what industry you're in or what you're trying to do. Obviously, like, you need to follow your passions. You need to do like what actually interests you. Otherwise, you're not going to get anywhere with it. But on top of that, it's all about your circle and about who you bring in as a mentor, because they have the foundation or the building blocks that are going to push you through those hard times, right?
Yep.
Or when you don't quite understand something, right? So who's some of the people that you've leaned on in the industry, and it's kind of to give them their pat on the back and as a thank you, and kind of just to get people thinking about it, because you see a lot of new people jump in and they're like, oh, I want Miguel to mentor me, or I want this really big person to mentor me. And you got to realize, like, these guys get probably, on Miguel's scale, probably hundreds of texts or emails a day saying, hey, will you help me out with this? And it becomes overwhelming, like, even for the smaller dudes.
No, yeah. And I can attest to anyone who's messaged Miguel and felt shorted and he didn't get a message back. I've been friends with him for a long time. Like, we met at Tinley. He didn't know anybody. I invited him to the dinner with Freedom Breeder, like, and that he already got the bug, but that was the relationship bug that he just kind of took off with, obviously all by himself. I have nothing to do with that. He was just shook hands with a guy at Tinley, you know, but I've hung out with him at his house. You know, we've spent some good amount of time together at shows. The guy's busy. Yeah. Besides, you know, owning or having a hand in several businesses, his phone blows up, you know, and you give a bunch of people half-ass answers, or you try to pick a few and spend, you know, quality time giving them what you can, you know, and still trying to be a dad and a husband and everything else. So yeah, don't feel bad, guys. It's
no, it wasn't like, in no means was
no,
it,
I know. I'm just
like throw Miguel under the bus. Like, I've felt it for him. Like, there's been times I was that newbie. I'll admit it. I was that newbie. I was like, hey, you gave me your number. You done fucked up, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna ask you all the questions.
Yeah.
But
No, yeah. Jason Amos, I bought a pass. I met him at an In-N-Out off of Highway 80, Interstate 80, I guess. And I bought a pastel female from him. So that kind of flowered into a friendship, talked me into going to a Tinley, and I haven't missed a year since. And so I think that's going on 4 or 5 years now of Tinley. So just little things like that. And obviously he and I still work together, you know, and I lean on him for advice. And, you know, I'm out and do a lot of the social media. He's heavy on the Facebook. And so we kind of relay information to each other because I don't do a ton of Facebook. And so, you know, those relationships that were started back when I bought a pastel female, super excited about it. I think I paid $200 for a baby pastel female. And that's, you know, that was a good price back in the day, you know, and I didn't realize just spending that money would, you know, flower into a relationship. Then obviously Tinley, you meet. Now I have friends across the United States and UK and Canada, you know, and Puerto Rico. Like, it's just amazing what the reptile industry, hobby, community, whatever it is to you, can bring to you if you know, come to it in a positive way.
Are we I have to ask this. This is how bad of a friend I am, guys. I don't know if they're married yet or if it's still like an engagement or what's going on.
No, that's all right. Funny you lead into that. So I will not be attending any big reptile shows this year for the first time ever. And it's one of them is really because it's selfishly planned it poorly with Joel from State 48. In about 2 weeks, I'll be in Arizona with 2 other friends, and we're going on a little boys golf trip for the weekend. So but then, yes, I am getting married this year to my fiance. We've been together for 6 years. So I'll have the bachelor party. I have a work meeting in Orlando, so hoping to do some reptile stuff when I'm down there again. Then I'll be in Mexico for work, leisure, but work pays for it. So that's fantastic in September. And then obviously, and then I get married in October and then go on honeymoon. So somewhere in there, I have to do my normal 9 to 5 and take care of animals and do all that. So there's not a lot of shows in my future right now.
I hear that. That's awesome, bro. I'm very happy for you. I didn't get to meet her personally, but the couple of times we've talked and I've gotten a chance to talk to her a little bit, she seems very nice. So I'm excited for you.
Awesome.
I'm sure you wouldn't spend 6 years with someone you didn't like.
Yeah,
I would hope not. I would hope not.
Yeah, I mean, reptiles, she loves animals, but reptiles aren't really her forte, but she puts up with it, and she goes to shows with me sometimes and has a good time hanging out with everyone just like I do. So, you know, that's really all you can ask for.
So what made you decide to, instead of just doing a hobby, well, I guess, I don't know, you're kind of in that middle wavelength right now, I believe. Like whether it needs to be a full out business or if this is the spot where you're going to stop and keep it as hobby. What made you decide to go into this with a business mindset versus just, oh, I want to produce a couple of clutches a year just to see if I can?
No, those are good questions, man, because I've really been kind of torn with that recently. You know, I'm at the point where if I really gave this 100%, I could do this for a living, you know, pending any crazy laws. Thank God for you, Sark. Yeah, it's interesting. So I'm in medical sales, so that's my main income, and that's what has health insurance for me, and you know, and 401k and that sort of thing. And I don't know that I could ever just do one job. You know, I escaped from the 9 to 5 and go into my snake room. You know, and if it became that was my place, how do you escape? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I got to have a distraction. I think I have trouble sitting still. That's why I poured myself a cocktail. Hopefully I could, you know, sit down for an hour. So I'm usually just, you know, bouncing all over the place. Not exactly with speech, but my brain's going, I could be doing this. I could be doing this. I could be doing that, you know? And so I don't know, man, that's tough. In an ideal world, I would breed snakes for a living, but based on my short-term goals, you know, for my life outside of that, I think I need to do both. I think I need both sources of income right now. You know, they're healthy and doing well. And I couldn't be more thankful for the snake side, because I love doing that, and I love talking to people about reptiles, and I love seeing what people do with things that I've produced, or where my stuff went. You know, I'm honored that people call me and ask, I want something that you know made. So it's very gratifying. So maybe down the road, I definitely, if early retirement for me could be just grinding on snakes every day, I mean, that's fantastic. So
Okay.
10 years,
And I think
15 years.
no, I'm sorry. I think with the way that you do stuff, it's more than possible. Like you'll have, because of the medical sales, you'll have a nest egg when you're ready to walk away.
Yeah.
And then I'm kind of like you. Like my wife absolutely hates this about me. But like for the last, what's it been? 4 years, almost 4 years since I've gotten out of the military.
Yeah.
I've had to have 3 or more things going at once. Like I can't have one thing. So like when I told her we have, because she started receiving disability as well. So essentially all our bills are paid now from the military.
Wow.
So she spent like 2 years before she finally filed. Even though I was yelling at her, I was like, you need to go file.
Yeah.
You got all this stuff on record. Go file. It'll make our lives easier.
Yeah.
So our bills are paid, thank God. And then I looked at it and I was like, well, I'm bored. I need to go to school and I want to do snakes. And well, I need feeders. So why don't I do rats? And well, you know, there's not really a rat supplier in my area that's really big. So let me try to build 2 businesses at the same time, because I'm a glutton for punishment.
Yeah.
But I feel it. It's
yeah, fortunately I have my son to help me with that. I don't really go into the rat room unless I'm pulling rats. He does all the cleaning and, you know, and the breeding and all that good stuff. And I pay for his, because he has his own leopard gecko breeding where he sells with me at shows, and he does wholesale orders here in the local area with me when we do it with the pet stores. And so I'm very thankful that I don't have to. If I had to do rats, man, I hate them. I don't know.
I feel you, bro. I feel you 100%. Like I hate the smell. I hate everything. I'm actually I'm at the verge of, after this summer, if we stay in El Paso any longer, I'm getting a commercial building.
Yeah.
And it's just, I'm going to bite the bullet.
It's hard to have this many snakes and not have a control on that piece of the supply chain, because here in my area of Northern California, you know, in the summer, it gets 115 for a couple of weeks during the summer. And rat production is pretty much wiped out at that point. It doesn't matter. They just don't breed, or they see, or, you know, stuff breaks and people lose part of their collection. There's always something every year. Feels like twice a year that we have a drought. And so that's really what started this. But when I had COVID, I had 103 fever for like 4 or 5 days and couldn't get up. And I lost a lot of rats because my son wasn't here. You know, obviously I'm not bringing them to my house when I have COVID. So we're still bouncing back from that. So right now I'm paying for rats and paying the overhead on trying to get that collection back up to size. So never easy, man. You got to grind always.
Always. Well, let's kind of talk about that grind. Like you envision the potential for a business. So what do you like? What's your, I wouldn't say your overall plan. Like I don't need your business plan. You know what I mean? But like, wait, maybe I do. Let me take some notes. But like, what's your overall goal with it? Like, do you want to just do like 50 clutches a year? Do you want to just keep this hobby? And if you do decide to go business, like how much are you going to rely on like marketing, or are you going to look at doing stuff like this as a marketing avenue versus like your traditional? Are you going to think about like mail? I actually talked to this guy, weirdly enough, and someone's going to steal this idea now. Like some big name's going to hear this somehow and think of this. But I talked to him about mailers, and the funny thing about it is, like it's something that's not really done. It was done in the old days when you were getting like Reptile magazine and stuff pushed out, right? But they just did ads in the back of the Reptile magazine. But actual mailers, like I can pick spots all over the country with this guy and put a little flyer in your mailbox and make you hate me. And I'm like 20 states away, and you'll never hear from me. But it is what it is. Or maybe you will, because you call me and bug me. But
yeah, I guess it's just the return on that. what is the
Is it
cost
worth
of it for picking up 1 to 3 clients potentially, you know?
Right.
If it's minimal, then get your name out there, then do it. But right now, I think, and especially for the next generation coming up, it's all social media and it's all those different platforms. Like there's breeders out here that have more followers on TikTok than they do on Instagram because TikTok's what's relevant right now, and you're capturing a whole nother group of people that you wouldn't be capturing otherwise. Social media is not my favorite thing. I try to post as many pictures on Instagram as I can, but half the time something cool will happen, or I check something out and I leave the snake room and went, should have recorded that. You know, like it's just not how my brain works to grab a phone.
Right.
My fiance, on the other hand, is a social media whiz and runs like wedding websites and social media platforms. And I have a resource here in my house that could be helping this explode, you know, but she doesn't really go in the, you know, she's not going to pick up a snake and prop it up and take a picture. So, and she's not in there cleaning or checking for breeding. So it's hard to catch those things. So I guess it's more leaning back on me. And with everything going on during COVID, how crazy medical sales got and still kind of is with supply chain disruptions. And it was easy for me to drop social media. I did YouTube pretty consistently for a while, but when it comes down to work, being a dad, being a spouse, taking care of animals, it doesn't matter how many videos I make if I'm not producing anything and my animals aren't healthy. So I had to drop something, and I dropped YouTube. But I realized quickly how important that was as far as sales go. I felt the dip in sales.
Yeah, you definitely. I think you have to. One, it helps you stay relevant, but two, I think the other side of it is very much people want to see what you're producing, but they also kind of want that personal feel of you. Like whether they're just getting your snakes and they're reading the captions or whatever, because you have those people that just do like random quotes, right? They'll throw a random quote under their post and then they'll throw a couple hashtags and it is what it is. And then you have the people that make the big paragraphs like me that should know better, but I can't help it. And,
bullet points, John. Bullet points.
Yeah, bullet points. I need the Cliff Notes version from now on.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, you get that, or you get the people that just understand the marketing side of it. And it's one of the things with my externship I've been blessed with is they have a specific manager that is solely for their marketing, right? And she is amazing on Instagram. Like she runs the Instagram for 2 different franchises and a construction company that the people I'm doing this externship own. So it's the learning points from that. So hopefully I can pass some of that on to my friends someday and I can figure it out myself so that it's relevant. But I think with your fiance doing it, even if you're the one taking the content, just being like, hey babe, nudge, nudge. You want to help?
Oh, if I did that, she would do it.
Oh, for sure.
It's just me not taking the pictures when I'm supposed to, or making a video, or it could have been a reel, or whatever. So, no, as far as marketing, obviously, and my long-term plans for turning this into a business, right now I have just shy of about 200 snakes. That's all I have room for in my current location. That's a lot to take care of, just me doing it. I try to stay on schedule, but essentially, I'm working from 6:30 in the morning till 5 or 6 every day, and I chill and eat, and then I'm either cleaning, feeding, breeding, updating Morph Market, answering emails. I mean, I have 2 phones to try to keep my the snake emails and everything else separate. So in order to go full time though, I would definitely need to make sure that social media platform had a good base again. So making YouTube video again, posting daily, making a TikTok account. I don't have one of those. I call it TikTok and joke around and whatever else, but apparently it's infiltrated Instagram, and that's what I'm seeing on the stories is basically that anyways. So definitely build that platform. And then in order to go full time, I think I would need to double my collection, which would mean double my rodent production. And then at that point, my son would be on his own path doing whatever he would do. And so that would be, I think I could handle that if that was my only job. I could handle doing that all day, you know. Shows would become more important. Vending, I try to hit every vending locally here that I can, but then definitely traveling to bigger shows like down in Southern California, which people are like, why don't you at Pomona? Why aren't you at, you know, Anaheim? I'm like, that's still an 8-9 hour trek for me from where I am, you know. And
No
so
comment. No comment.
I know, and other people are like, oh, that's nothing, you know. I drove 13-17 hours to go to Tinley, you know. I just told you I had trouble sitting still for an hour to do it. Like I can't sit in the car that long.
Flight, bro. It's just a flight.
That's terrible. 5 hours is my max on a flight, and the last hour
that's your frequent flyers for Tinley. You're solid.
I know. Yeah, just ship everything to myself and fly there.
That's horrible. Yeah, it'd be horrible.
Yeah, so I would definitely say building that social media platform, making sure you're getting out there, talking to people, make sure people recognize you, recognize your name before you start thinking of going full time. You know, guys like Royal Canadian, like Will, like we were talking about, you know, who is a fountain of knowledge and very successful. And I joke around and call him your favorite breeder's favorite breeder. He was well past the point of being able to go full time before he went full time. Well past the point. He was set in stone. You know, social media platform was banging. He was getting asked on all these podcasts. He was making YouTube videos consistently. He had hired help because he had grown his collection organically just from working the normal avenues and, you know, doing the normal grind. And he doesn't really even vend shows. This is all online sales and just building your reputation. So I would say come into the industry positively with positive intent, you know, treat people that same way. Try to kill people with kindness. You know, if the worst thing they can say is he offered me a refund and apologized, you know, I mean, stuff happens. So I think just making yourself a positive figure before you decide, you know, is this a good thing for me financially? Is my overhead match my profits on this? And make that decision. But I think you should overreach before jumping.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. I think a lot of people want to do this, or they see the people that have done it and the wants there, but they don't realize exactly how much of their life it's going to consume at some point.
You got to take care of the animals, period. They have to be healthy. You got to have good food. You got to have consistency. You got to be on top of it. You got to catch little things before they become big things, or it's just not going to work. I mean, it doesn't matter how much money you have. You can, everyone, you know, there's a lot of people out there that have money. It doesn't mean every single one of them could be a successful breeder. And so there's different, I did the low and slow method, and I still think I'm, like you said, at kind of that mid-level, but I've had the fantastic opportunity of being associated with great people in the industry and buying from great people in the industry. And eventually they bought from me as well, which helps your reputation. You know, if Aussie Boys posts a Renowned Reptile snake, that helps.
A little bit. I mean, yeah,
it helps. And so just kind of approach, like I said, approaching with positivity, overreaching before you decide to go full time. Make sure you're set, maybe double what would make sense, and then go for it. I mean, I think it's out there, and I think if you have the passion and drive to do it, you can do it.
Absolutely. And speaking of having passion and drive, husbandry, I'm gonna go real quick, and we're gonna highlight our sponsor for the show, if you're okay with that.
That's fantastic.
Here at Outside the Clutch, we're honored to be sponsored by VivTech. Are you ready for innovation? Tired of the same boring product that's been used for 30 years? Ready to give your reptiles and amphibians the UVB they really deserve? Then look no farther than VivTech. Their 3-watt LED bulb provide the UV rays your animals have been missing. With 3 bulbs to fit your pet's climate needs for optimal husbandry, plus a dimmable feature, and it's the only bulb with a 2-year warranty in the industry. So what are you waiting for? Go to vivtechproducts.com today, use code FCLUTCH0322 for 10% off to provide your animals the best care they've ever had. You guys have no idea how long I worked on that still.
That's nice. And funny enough, all the terrariums behind me are lit with VivTech.
Very nice. Thank you.
Yeah. No, yeah, my monkey tail skink bounced back. It was I didn't know it was an import. I should have asked more questions. Probably had worms, had trouble eating. It wouldn't open its eyes. Got the bulbs, changed up the husbandry just a touch, and now he's roaring and charging out of the cage when I try to reach in there. So
Very
healthy.
Nice. Heck yeah. That's what you want.
Yeah.
It completely changed our beardy. And so I will forever like give props to VivTech and what Ryan and Erica have done. I think it's amazing. They just unveiled a new product today, which is like a standalone monitoring system, which is freaking amazing.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get my hands on it and test it
out.
out.
Being able to check all your caging as far as humidity and temperature from your phone, it's and manipulate it from your phone wherever you are. Game changer.
And not only that, I know like Ryan's talked about it. So what he wants to do is he wants to eventually put a feature like within the app where you can monitor the climate from where they come from. So you match it exactly to that climate.
Wow.
Like that's
insane.
Complete game changer.
Oh yeah.
Freaking amazing.
Oh yeah.
But so we've been talking the business side of things, and obviously with where we're at, like you've been doing it for 7 years. I've been around for, I think this is my 5th year, something like that. Yeah, 5th year. Been breeding for effectively for 2. So yay, 2nd year.
Attaboy.
Yeah, getting the ball rolling. But I think it's time that we kind of go into your projects and we talk more about Nick and like let people see who Nick is outside of just reptiles.
Okay. Yeah, if you want to talk some projects. So Fealys Clutch just posted it. Touchdown this morning. Really excited about it. So I just got this blackhead Mojave leopard pied, possible yellow belly, possible mahogany that I got from Justin, and bred to an Enchi het pied female. So bringing some pattern back into that, and then hopefully proving out yellow belly and or mahogany in that pairing. So yeah, really excited. That's a great clutch to kick off. And I always I'm not superstitious, but for some reason with ball pythons, I kind of am. And I always, the first clutch, if there's no slugs, I'm always like, yes, we're going to have a good season. Like it's on. But if it's like not good, I'm like, oh no.
Oh, we're going to have a horrible.
Yeah, if I'm like a 2 to 6, 2 good eggs to 6 slugs, I'm like, oh no. Oh, what's going to happen? Oh no. So 6 eggs, not a huge girl, but she's consistent. And
I mean, that's a good start.
Yeah, it's a great start, especially with that male. So excited to see what else he fathers this year. Got probably next clutch up to be laid is a pastel Enchi clown to a lace head clown. And so the full version of that, the pastel lace Enchi clown, is a beautiful animal. And I'm really excited to hopefully hit one of those, at least one. So definitely working the blackhead projects. I'm excited to prove out gravel and not yellow belly in some of my blackhead stuff and have the potential to hit a super gravel blackhead combo, maybe some recessives floating around in there this year. So excited for that. It's definitely dark. It's definitely a dark animal there. So yeah, I was always heavy in the clowns, and I've never considered myself a pied guy per se. And I was in the room cleaning, I think a week or 2 ago, and I was looking around and I was like, I have a lot of pieds now. Like, I think I'm almost 40, 60 on the clown to pied stuff. So, yeah, I like pieds, especially because it's a high contrast. So if you like blacks and can have a white background, it's really going to pop. And if you can have blacks with pattern in a white background, like I'm trying to make some black tiger looking pieds, like some crazy stuff. And I think that can be done with blackhead and stranger and pied and mixing that kind of stuff in. A lot of the stranger clown stuff is kind of tiger striped. To me it is. And so I kind of want to play off of that and see if you can make like the dark tiger, I think that'd be a pretty
Have you seen? I think it's called Tiger.
I think it's
The
Jaguar.
Tiger.
The Jaguar? You think
No,
it's
there's a
Jaguar?
Tiger. Yeah, there's a Tiger
There's
gene.
so
I
many
believe.
now.
Yeah,
There's so
it's
many
it's
now.
insane. I got like pulled across Arlington at the spring show by one of my buddies, and he's like, "Oh, you like all the dark stuff? You'll really like the Tiger gene. It's dark." And I was looking at the guy that had it. It was Tony from Hardwired,
Yeah.
and I forget what the combo was exactly, but he had a bunch of light genes mixed into it, so I couldn't really see exactly what it does, but it
Was it just a more banded animal, or what do you think?
I think it bands really well, but it makes it thinner. I know
Hmm.
Justin has some as well. I
Oh, okay.
haven't really gotten to look at the stuff that he has. I know he posted something recently about a combo with Tiger in it, though.
Okay.
Um, it's a neat animal though, but I like where your head's at with that though, like making a striping effect that's uh to be
That's not
insane on a
clean.
ball python. Yeah, that'd be
And it's not
insane
clean.
on.
It's got to be like really jagged, but there's got to be contrast in between it. And if you can have like blotched out pattern that looks like that with a white background on a heavily patterned pied, I mean, I'm just trying to think of cool things to do that are outside of clown,
Oh, I feel you.
even though some of the clown stuff coming up is fantastic. So I'm definitely into DG. I got people shopping for me at Tinley right now for Desert Ghost stuff, and I'm just Venmoing and sending money when they see something.
Watching those funds go down real quick.
Yeah. Hoping it doesn't pull too much out of the wedding fund there. So,
Right.
um, yeah, Desert Ghost. Obviously, if you can clean an animal up and bring more contrast, that fits in the same line of what I'm trying to do, but just working the darker side of it. Obviously, Desert Ghost is beautiful in lightening and cleaning things up, but its blacks are also very rich. And so if you can just maximize the blacks there and reduce those clean, side patterns, are we essentially working towards the same thing? So is Desert Ghost a part of what I just said? I'm interesting to. I think the base animal would almost look better than the pied if we were going that direction. But I'm just obviously the mind keeps rolling. You see, I can go on
I got you.
how it'll turn out, and if we add this and if we add that, and what I think it'll be. But with Blackhead, you never know what's going to pop out.
Well, I think that's the funny thing too, is like you like we said, you've gone drastically darker every year, but you still have these very, very bright, vivid morphs that you're using as bases to add into your dark projects, which is going to give you your contrast that you really like. And that's the way to go. I'm kind of taking the same perspective, kind of not. I mean, I'm going towards like the Monarch gene and the fact that it has like darker undertones, and hoping I can play off of that.
Yeah,
it's a 100%. You gotta find that contrast, and I think you've done an extremely great job of it over the last couple of years, especially with your Stranger project. Like there's so many different colors popping out of those animals. It's freaking ridiculous.
Yeah. I was very fortunate to work with the Stranger gene last season, pretty heavily on a breeder loan. That was the first time I've ever done that, and I normally wouldn't recommend it, but it was with someone I trusted very much, and we both have similar attitudes about, you want that one, I'll take this one, whatever, split it, doesn't matter. And so it worked out. The only thing I didn't like about just working the Stranger project that hard, obviously the innovation and being on the cutting edge of a new gene and hatching out world's first. I mean, that stuff's really exciting and cool, but variety is the spice of life, and ball pythons have it. And so to focus so much on just one gene really felt like I was delaying progress that I had going on my other stuff. And so I don't think I would exclusively go after the most expensive gene on the market like that again.
Right.
Without doing it on my own and just working it slowly into certain projects versus like going hard into everything. you know, just so I could still develop the other stuff I had going on. Now, is that the best business decision? Probably not.
You read my mind, bro. I was like, so
Yeah,
how
no,
did that affect you? Like, honestly, you had to have, like, last year before, with all that stranger stuff, you had to have seen a huge influx just based off of the want for that specific morph.
yeah, no, it definitely had me recognized a little bit more, or maybe to people that didn't know me before. It definitely upped where I was, obviously, with that project. Now, with it being a codom, is it going to stay that high forever? No, it's not. Isn't maybe, and maybe it's not a codom. Maybe it's an incomplete dominant. Nobody's seen a super yet. Doesn't mean it can't be done. Or maybe people have tried and just got strangers, and that was the result. So, anytime you have a codom incomplete dominant, the value drops a lot quicker than you would with a recessive, right? Harder to make.
Right.
The value is going to last longer. Stranger's done well. The market's been relatively stable. The price has started to dip. And I know, again, this is where I'm kind of torn, speaking as part of the community versus like a business side. Because if it was a business side, you do what I did last year and you breed as many of them as you can and try to sell them while the market's high and get everyone into those projects. Then you now have sources to fund other projects or the next big thing that's coming out. Right. So if you're going to run a business, that's the model you're going to take. But I also, you know, do it for the nerd scientist, whatever piece that I don't get normally, you know, and so doing projects that I wanted to do and work on was important to me. And so I think I'm going to do a blend. My visual stranger clown that I got out of that loan is damn near ready to go. And so I probably will have some more stranger clutches at the end of the year, but I'll also have desert ghost stuff this year. I'll have cool blackhead stuff, potential of blackhead clown pies this year, stuff like that, that I've been excited for. So to have all those other projects and a little bit of stranger mixed in this year, that's the right blend for me personally.
Excuse me. How important or how far along have you made going into like your double heads or double visuals or triples at this point? Because it's like, obviously we see it, that's where the future's going. That's the only way you're going to eventually stay relevant at some point. It's going to be hard for newbies coming in unless they take that mindset right away, right?
Yeah. So 2 years ago, I produced my first triple heads. I bred a hypo black pastel Mojave to a clown pied. And some of those babies ended up with Joel from State 48. Some ended up with Miguel. Some are still sitting in my racks growing up and just got switched over to FB40s. And then I have an Inchy quad head, Ultramel, clown pied, hypo. Yeah. And so kind of looping that back in with the possibility of Ultramel floating around in there, it's just building towards that. And when I did that pairing originally, it was to create holdbacks. And I think that's the reason you should be doing pairings at my level, is because I want something out of it. Now, once you get more into the business side, you may not want everything out of that clutch, but your customers do, and you know your customer base. And so that's why you do those pairings. But for me right now, I'm still, you know, doing it because I need things that I want to hold back, that I want to create to further my projects. And then whatever's left, you know, I sell. And I usually have like a second wave, like, you know, you hold back more than you should. And so you sell that.
I don't know that issue at all. I mean, like, and
then later you're like, crap, that's a little redundant. I got to get rid of that, but I really don't want to, you know.
Anything that had clown my first year, I totally stole the page out of Will's book, and I said,
oh yeah,
no one's getting shit.
Yep, that's what I did with my DG tri-stripe stuff. I kept a lot of it, sold some of the males, and that was it.
There you go.
Those are hets.
Okay. And then I think that's the awesome thing too, though. Like you hit that certain point where it's like it's fun, and you're always breeding for yourself, and then you see the sales come from the stuff that you don't want, and you're like, well, I finally have the means to kind of invest a little bit, and you see yourself go after stuff that you never even fathomed would be within
your price range.
I don't know even the price range. Like I know some people, like for me, I'm not rich, but my bills are paid, right?
Right.
So it wasn't a matter of, well, can I afford this? Because I could pull the loan or I could do whatever.
Right.
It's paid. But it was, am I really ready to drop that much on a single animal? Like
That kid's not
that's a
broke.
scary, yeah, it's a scary thing.
I remember the first time I spent $5,000 on a snake.
Not even.
He gave me a clutch this morning.
That's awesome.
So
it's freaking awesome.
yeah.
Heck yeah. That's so. When did you get that snap? Was that almost right away, or was it like did you do the typical investment of, okay, I'm gonna get like these $500, feel comfortable animals, and then move
No,
up? Or
worse than that. I had probably 4.1 Mojave, 2 Mojaves, a bumblebee, a normal female, and then realized, wait, this is not,
you can't do it, dude.
like, this is not going to
Yeah.
work. So
You're
I
gonna have a lot of bells. You're gonna be able to sell a lot.
Yeah, so I bought a Mystic female for like $800 back in the day. That was the most expensive like first snake I'd ever bought. And I had a Mojave, and so I made Mystic potions, and I thought that was cool. And I sold those for like $400, and I was stoked, and just kind of worked my way through it that way. I really low and slow. It was, I think, when I made the super blackheads and they started to go to Aussie and started, and that was when I started selling stuff for over $1,000. And that was like, I couldn't believe it. Like I just sold not only to people I look up to, but for, a couple grand. And that was crazy to me, and I think every time, and that can keep happening every level. Like it happened again with Stranger, right? Now we're talking a 5-figure animal. And we're like, holy crap. Like, Brad Boa just bought a snake for me. It's just like, what? Like what's happening right now? And so that's kind of where I'm still in shock a little bit. It's not, I'm still very, I don't know. I'm getting kind of jumbling my words because I'm still humbled that people want to buy stuff that I work with. I think that's really cool.
That's
other people like what I'm weirdly running off in tangents talking about.
That's what it should be about, man. Like,
yeah.
You should breed for you, and you've been blessed. Like we were saying earlier, it goes back to your circles. It goes back to everyone seeing the dedication that you have for your animals and for this hobby. Like, I don't think I've missed seeing you over the, like, even though I haven't been out to California for like 2 or 3 years now, I see you every year because you come out to Arlington or something.
Yeah.
So it's,
and I'm barely at the shows. If you guys see, I don't like go out or anything at home. Like I don't really do anything crazy. I hang out with my family on the weekends and, do snake stuff and whatever else. And so when I go out, I get to see all my buddies, that I haven't got to see, all my friends, and I start drinking with them, and they're more professional than me. So usually by like Saturday morning, I should be at the show hanging out, and I'm still like trying to wipe off the night before, just trying to sleep it off a little bit. And then I roll into the auction and just leave my hand in the air for too long. And, that's typically how it goes. So I definitely want to clean that up a little bit so I can have more time hanging out with people and get back to actually filming instead of hurting.
What else do you do? Like, do you go and get any field herping still, or do you do anything?
So I did rattlesnake removals for a long time when I worked at the country club, and that was the closest thing to field herping I'd get because half the calls weren't even rattlesnakes, and
it was just gopher snake.
Yeah, I'd walk up and pick it up, and he'd be biting my arm, and they'd freak out, and I'd be crying, laughing, and like once I caught my breath because people were like having meltdowns, I would tell them it's not a rattlesnake and whatever else, and that was kind of like the ongoing joke. They didn't know if I was going to go up and just grab it or if it was actually a rattlesnake, But I haven't done much field herping. Life's been crazy, like I said, with COVID. We've been, kind of tasked in my industry with getting first care providers all the PPE they need to be safe themselves, and so that's been been my focus, because that's the way that I can directly affect my local community, is, you know, helping my doctors and nurses get supplies to take care of sick people. So it's definitely been a grind the last 2.5 years doing that. Now that it's a little bit starting to simmer down a touch, there's still like some bigger issues. Obviously, with gas prices higher, plastics are going to be short. They're going to stop making that stuff. That means, you know, syringes and all the other things that use plastic in their devices. And I'm going to have to figure out something for that. But I'm going to have more time to focus on social media. I'm going to try to task my fiance to get into this as much as I can, because she's great at it. You guys will see some awesome content and you'll know it's not me. And so I'm looking for some help there. But yeah, just really excited to keep it going.
Thank you. What do you want to do by the end of the year? Like, what's your goal? I feel like everyone should push in each aspect in their life to kind of find that goal for the year. So like with me, I was like, okay, this year I haven't read books in years, right? So, well, besides like your typical, hey, figure out the morphs and like staring at pictures to try to find like differences. Like my ball python morphs have consumed like the last 5 years of my life. But
yeah,
so I was like, all right, I'm gonna read like self-improvement books
right.
1 a week this year.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put out content once a week this year, whether it's a live stream or something, you know.
Yeah.
But so, what are your goals for the year? It doesn't have to just be like ball pythons, but
Yeah.
obviously that's what
No,
everyone knows.
yeah. Right now, obviously paying for my wedding, being financially smart, making some moves, and doing it myself. I'm paying it. We're paying for it ourselves. And my fiance is a wedding coordinator, so you can't give her a backyard wedding with your buddy as the minister and slap on the butt and call it a day. Like it's just not going to happen. And I want to give her dream wedding, and so that's a goal and a focus of mine. And then what comes along with that personally is shredding for the wedding. I'm trying to drop some of the old poundage there.
I was gonna say, you're looking good, bro.
Less Saint Bernard, more Great Dane, which is, I have 2 of those. So I'm just looking at them and how agile they are and fit and ready to go. And I'm like, oh, it's not easy. Yeah. So I've been just shredding for the wedding, just trying to make better decisions. I think if you make better health decisions, if you feel better, you're going to do a better quality of work. You're going to have more energy to get more stuff done, and you're going to be a better person because you'll be in a better mood. You're not going to feel like crap. And so I think focusing on my health in 2022 and really what makes me feel good and what doesn't is important. So focusing on that. And then I think time management is always a focus every year for me. It's not that I'm bad at it. It's just I always add more stuff to my plate. And so I want to make sure that I'm not half-assing a bunch of things. I'm either planning correctly so I can give 100% of my effort, or eliminating things that are blocking me from doing these things well. So a little bit of cleanup and health and time, and just staying positive and being nice to people, because you never know. Someone's having a terrible day, they're being a terrible person. You can just be nice to them or buy their coffee, and could change a little bit. So
it's gonna be like a gallon or 2 of gas soon.
Dude, and I have to drive for a living, and they only pay us like 22 cents a mile. I'm like, you guys need to revisit that right now. Do you not know what's going on?
What are your prices over there now?
It's not
like,
bad.
They gotta be like $5.50.
It's not as bad as Southern California. It's like $6 at Costco right now. But it's like $8 in Southern California, which is just ridiculous. So I've been driving my son's little Honda Civic instead of my 1500, just because.
I don't blame you.
Yes, man.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. So, I mean, other than that, I play golf, and I've recently got into shooting and target shooting. I'm not a big hunter, but being a collector of firearms, and I enjoy target shooting and things like that. And so it's just a lot of stuff. I do a lot of things. I work a lot, do the snakes a lot, and then try to golf and do some shooting when I can.
Nice. Very nice. What's your handicap? Do you have one yet?
I mean, if I'm typically a mid to low 90s, if I'm playing pretty consistently, I'll shoot in the high 80s, mid 80s if I'm doing really well. Yeah, it's not terrible.
Is it self-taught, or have you gone through lessons?
I did lessons when I was little, then didn't play for like all of my teens, and then picked it back up in my later 20s. Working at a country club, I got exposed, but I went in when it was dark and left when it was dark. Not a lot of time to golf there. So
Right.
I played most golf after leaving the country club, believe it or not.
I love it, man. I got my wife interested last year. So for our anniversary last year, she was like, "What do you want to do?" I just want a nice dinner. And I was like, "Okay, bet." She didn't realize that it was a 4-hour ordeal.
Yeah, oh yeah. If you play fast.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And she's like, I love my wife. She's 5'2". She has no athleticism as far as like swinging any objects at a ball. So we were practicing with her driver throughout the entire thing until we got to the green. But it's so much fun, man. And just to like see her outside and enjoying it, even though she knows she's struggling, she's just trying to keep up, and we're like telling people to play through.
Yeah,
it's a great time. Like,
so I think my fiance is a little bit the opposite of that. So she's 6'1". I'm 6'4". My son's 16 and 6'4", and we have 2 Great Danes. So everything looks normal at our house. But if she's competitive, I would almost say a little bit more competitive.
Oh crap! I'm in trouble.
A little bit. Uh-oh. The wife just texted you?
Oh yeah. I just got it.
Yeah, so if she's not great at it right away, she doesn't like it. And so golf's been a hard sell for her. But the last couple of times she's hit it pretty far. And so I think we got a little bit of a spark, but it's going to be 9-hole max for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's where we're going to go, is like just get 9 holes in, have someone watch the kids for a little bit, and it's just a getaway. And as long as she enjoys herself, I mean, I just want her out of the house. That way she can relax a little bit. It's hard for a stay-at-home mom.
I think she would probably prefer that you just get her a day to go get her nails
or just
done.
go. Well, I mean, yeah, but
you might have to do that to dig yourself out.
Yeah, after today. Oh man. Hey, 21st Century. Thank you. Watching from the UK.
Oh wow.
Heck yeah.
Staying up.
So obviously ball pythons are a big part. You talked about your monkey tail skinks, but you actually have a wide variety of animals, or at least you did last time I visited. I don't know
I
how much that's changed.
No, I have a gargoyle gecko that I got from the Forest Fanning auction. And I named her Sequoia, like the trees, like a forest. And then I have a lychee. She's a pure Nuana female, and she lays eggs every year. I need to find a male for her. Then I have my monkey tail skink, who is a male. He showed me that recently, now that he's feeling healthy from the Big Tech lights. Little plug there. I have a northern blue tongue skink. I have a reed tick. He's a golden child sunfire, who is my garbage disposal for retired breeder rats. And I have a tricolor hognose. And my son breeds leopard geckos. So we have about 40, 50 leopard geckos, and he likes dark stuff too. So he just bought into the Black Knight project with his earnings. Yeah. So yeah, we got a little zoo here. Besides the 3 dogs, we have 2 Great Danes and a little mutt named Biggie Smalls, and he wears a gold chain and rides with me everywhere.
That's freaking awesome.
Yeah, he's dope. He was homeless on the streets of Stockton. If you know anything about California, Stockton was the murder capital of the world, ahead of Chicago there for quite some time. So he spent the first year of his life running the streets, and then I got picked up by a kitten rescue, and then I adopted him. So it took a good 3 years before he stopped trying to bury my girlfriend and food and toys that he would stash in cushions around the house for later, like he would do on the streets. Right. So yeah, quite the zoo over here.
Very nice. Very nice.
Besides a teenager.
How's the retic look in your hands? Does it look small?
No. Well, I guess it's all relative. Yeah. He's probably, so he's a golden child, so he's should be a smaller locale. Right. And I'm obviously not pumping him full of food. That's not not healthy for him. And so we feed him what little less than he'll be willing to eat, because obviously he's a retic. But I'd say he's almost 7-8 feet now.
Nice.
Yeah, he's getting
So
there.
ours are about the same size. Nice.
I moved my big 15-foot girl over to Reptile Gym.
Okay. Yeah,
Big
yeah.
albino tiger, and he bred her this year. Hopefully get
I
some
think
babies from her. But yeah, she was just not happy
it's hard,
with
man.
me. And I had her even the same size, if not a little bit bigger cage. She could smell the rats always. And he feeds frozen over there and has a frozen pig hookup. And I just, no
Mm.
matter how much I fed her, she was a beast. She ate 13 pounds of pig the first week she was at his house.
Wow.
Yeah. And now she's huge and fat and happy. So I made the right move.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's
Got to do what's best for the snake.
I feel like that's one of the things a lot of people don't think about right away with retics is when
If
they're
you can get
young or
rats,
they're like
that's great.
they hit that 10 to 12 foot range, they're all
Rats aren't
right.
cutting
But
it.
once they get past that, yeah, it's a whole
You got to
different ball
have
game, and you have to
access
have the
to
time. It's
bigger
not
food.
just the
Yeah.
food. Like you have to constantly be working with them and make them trust you. Otherwise,
And at that point, you need to be working with them in pairs.
yeah.
Because even if you trust it, snakes have a bad day. And retics are more like people than any other snake I've ever met, where some days they're in a bad mood and some days they're happy to see you. And some days they're just tolerating you. They're more dynamic, I think, than many other snakes that we've, worked with. So
Absolutely. But I forgot where I was going with that. I love retics.
variety of reptiles.
Variety of life. That's awesome, dude. Like would you ever want to push it to like you call it a zoo, but like would you ever want to do like a little zoo kind of like what you see at prehistoric or the reptarium or something like that? Or is
If I
it
was gonna,
more where your comfort level is with just breeding right now?
no, I would go full on. If I could have it like an actual zoo with like elephants and giraffe and lions, and I would absolutely do that. I have African animals tattooed all over my leg. Like I would 100% do that. Yeah, I'm reptiles are what work for me now. It's what's best with my schedule, specifically ball pythons. They're very hardy, low maintenance, feeding schedule. I struggle with some of these office reptiles that I have just because their husbandry is completely different. Daily feeding, heavy misting, and just looking out for little things constantly before they become a big thing. And
Right.
trying to get them to a vet or intervene in whatever way you need to, especially when you work with an import like a monkey tail. And so I think people should have what they have experience with working with other people's animals, and I think they should only have what they can actually provide happy, healthy husbandry. And like people talk about ball pythons and tubs, and I can attest. Like I started out with that snake when I was 10 years old. He was in a glass fish tank, right? Spotty eater. He was on the carpet thing that smelled terrible, was dirty. Then I was on pine shavings, Then I finally went to a vision cage, and he was eating a little bit more consistently, but had troubles with shedding and some humidity and this, that, and the other. Fast forward to freedom breeder racks where he's in right now. I put him in a 70, and he liked it more, but he just wasn't as consistent feeding. Moved him into a 40 because I needed to move stuff around, and he eats every week now, and he's 30. Right.
Wow.
So for me, the place that he felt most comfortable and had the best health, my mom didn't even believe it was the same snake because of how big he was all of a sudden. It was because I moved him into an FB40. And I think certain ball pythons specifically, because they live like in like holes and stuff underground, you got to understand where they come from. Having the dark tubs and the cramped thing where they can touch each sidewall is what they prefer. Yes, they need to get out and explore and stretch a little bit. So having the length at the Freedom Breeder tubs is really good. But overall, if you put them in a big open-sided terrarium, they're not going to eat. That doesn't make them feel safe and comfortable. So listening to an animal and how it responds and its overall health based on your husbandry and line that up with your lifestyle and find out what works for you. Retics don't work for everybody. I mean, you need more regular handling because they are dangerous. If they're not associated with handling, bad things can really happen. And those take a more experienced owner and someone who's committed to providing a very large enclosure, in my opinion, needs to have vertical space. That's a commitment, and you have to be ready to handle that kind of stuff. Are you ready to always have 2 people with you when you clean and feed as it gets into its adult size for the rest of its life? It's 30 years.
Right.
Like,
I have it right now. That's the scary part. Is like,
be real with yourself. Are you willing to do that? But animals in general are fantastic. I think the more people that get to put their hands on them, touch them, own them, whatever, they're going to care about what happens to them in their native lands. And if nobody knows about a Madagascan tortoise, who gives a crap what's happening to it in Madagascar? But if you have one and see how beautiful they are and get to interact or hold one, and you're like, wait, they're just hunt, just shipping these things all over, and they're getting imported, and poached left and right. No, let's try to support whatever cause is trying to help that. And the other piece of that is having the arc here. Is whatever is happening in the wild, there's people across the country, across the world, working with really niche species and species that are threatened or endangered or even critically endangered based on who has them and where they are. And so to have a gene pool that's safe and healthy that could be at whatever point reintroduced to the wild, I mean, that's the definition of a Noah's Ark, essentially, right? Like, I don't think you should take that away. So what's going on with legislation and with the Lacey Act right now is scary. The whitelist versus blacklist thing is a bigger deal than people realize.
Very much so. I think you're right on the arc perspective to an extent. So this is where we're gonna fight, Nick. I'm sorry.
That's good. Let's throw him up.
Once you have, I think if you're like an F1, F2, maybe like to F3, but I think once you start getting like 4th generation, 10th generation bred and captive, you trying to push that back into the wild just isn't, it's not going to be beneficial to the animal. Like, I think eventually they will, like, they might do well initially, but eventually they're going to give out, especially if it's something like ball pythons. Like, luckily ball pythons don't have that issue yet, but just with the way that we've pushed it. So like, even if you just took all the normals out of pet stores to do that, right? How many people push normals to pet stores that have like single hets or double hets or triple hets, and if they find each other in the wild, there's going to be like this massively vivid animal that just sticks out and it'll never survive, right? But that's just part of life. I don't know.
Let me know when I can counter that. I'm ready.
Go ahead.
So specifically, I can't remember the species, but it's like a burrowing owl here in California. And I believe the San Diego Zoo was a big part of this. So it was pretty much wiped out on this hillside, and it's in a very small location, and around San Diego is where it lives. And so it was pretty much wiped out, and the lands were marked as a reserve or whatever that allowed them, to be reintroduced. So what they did was build outdoor enclosures on the native land, and they reintroduced them. And once they started breeding again, they removed the cages, and now they repopulated that hillside. So I don't know necessarily how you would do that for like a reptile per se, but I think a similar model could be followed as far as reintroducing to native lands. The other piece is in the wild, those crazy vibrant genes you're talking about were found from the wild. They were originally found in the wild. And so at some point, if they were found as a baby or an adult, they survived to some extent, right? And the ones that didn't. But when a clutch hatches, you and I know that all snakes aren't vibrant. And so maybe the vibrant ones get picked off and the normals survive. And that's now what takes over the area. So my rebuttal.
I like it. But like, even with that, I think a lot of what you got from here, like Enchies, when Enchies were first brought in, like the way we see them now, it's a very banded, very bright orange, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it was essentially a brown snake with just banding when it first came in. It's
That
due
made
to
some more
years and
banding.
years of
Yep.
line breeding, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it all depends on what's left in. Nice. Did you hear that?
Barely.
Okay.
It was either a cat dying or a baby crying. I don't.
That was my daughter yelling.
Got
her
it.
death squeal because she's
Perfect.
upset. I think it's all dependent on the wild species.
Yeah.
Like how late did you wait to introduce those animals? Because if you don't have the wild population blood, I think that's what's going to make it either thrive or not work.
Yeah, there would need to be some sort of accreditation, obviously coming from the population we're pulling from to reintroduce to the wild, where they have pictures of the parents like they do with like Trebo or Amazon Trebos and Greek shooting pythons, where they have pictures of the parents and documentation. It's kind of done more like dogs, where there's a pedigree to it. So in that situation, obviously that's who you lean on. It wouldn't come to me and say, "Let me have your normals," unless I knew it was an actual normal. And if you ever try to mess with a bunch of baby ball pythons in a tub, I have no doubt that they could eat if they found food. So
I agree. I mean, my first year was a little rough, but yeah, now I don't think they don't have issues with it anymore. But
no, and even if they do, they can be pretty nippy. So I can't hear it.
I'm glad you can, because I definitely can. These are supposed to be noise canceling, but they don't do a very well job sometimes.
Yeah.
Nice.
Good debate. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what's going to drive our industry. Is it's not just like, obviously I want to give you your props on your, how do I want to say this? I don't want to just say accomplishments, because it's more than just an accomplishment. I don't have a fancy term for that right now. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
But
pull up Google really quick and just
Google it. No, I'm not. I'll take it. I'm a dummy. Okay, it happens.
You're fine.
It's not just your accomplishments. Like you genuinely are a good person. You genuinely are someone that's like always been helpful to anyone you can, and I appreciate that. Like I remember driving from Texas to California, and just on a whim, like I had just passed into California, and I was at that what is it? That General Patton Museum right off of 10 when you first get into California off the 10. I forget what the town is right outside of it, but it's got a little dirt parking lot. So I parked my semi there and I got ready to sleep for the day, right? It was like, hey, I'm in California. I've done all my hours for the week. I can't do anything for like the next 2 days. So if you're in California, I'm willing to travel. Let's hang out.
Yeah.
And you were one of the first people that reached out, and you're like, oh, you're in Cali? Come up, dude.
Yeah, come through.
I was like, yeah.
And to let you know, like I typically don't do that. I don't know why I did it that day, but I typically don't have people over to my house just because it's my home, and there's a lot of people in the world. Not all of them are great. And I'm realistic about that. So I typically meet off location, but for whatever reason that day, I got a good vibe from you. I'm like, yeah,
well, I appreciate
I'll let this guy come through. And no, we had a good time though. We got to talk shop for a while, and I got to look at snakes and got to learn a little bit about each other. And then now we see each other at all the shows, and
it's blossoming into a good. Well,
I'm
not gonna say full blown friendship yet. We're getting there. We're getting
when
there.
you were in trucking and just hanging out in my snake room, did you think you would have a podcast?
Nah, not at all. Well, I wanted to do interviews, obviously. Like I based off of it. I had done, I think at that point, me, Adam, and Joel had done the Sean Bradley interview.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I could do this. And then he brought
it up.
Was that
6 hours?
Yes.
Something like that?
Thanks to Brian Kusko. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, of course.
We were like, I forget how long we were in. He was like, you won't do 6 more hours. I was like, I won't do 6 hours at all. And Sean
Mm.
heard that and decided we're going to do 6 hours,
Oh
which
my
is
God.
extremely easy for Sean if you've ever listened to him. Very easy for Sean. For us, not so much. Like me and Adam and Joel were just like,
yeah, boy can
we're
talk.
trying to stay away.
Yeah, he could talk.
Yeah. But yeah, so I did that and we looked at it and like I watched Adam and Joel create their podcast, and obviously it was on my mind. It was kind of something it all kind of talked about. I wasn't over there. Like I didn't have the connections in the industry yet to really want to pursue it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then I watched that happen, and I watched Barcheck create one, and I watched couple other people essentially create podcasts, and it's like, man, this has been in my mind for a while, but how do I do it? How do I form it? And I'm still figuring it out. Like every podcast is extremely different. Like I might ask like one or two questions that are similar throughout the podcast, but more often than not, it's just a general
coming up
thought.
with thoughtful questions would be challenging and not making them redundant.
Right.
Like obviously people have whatever their rapid fire questions, and people enjoy seeing the differences between that little section, but overall, if you try to ask the same person, every person the same set of questions, it
gets boring.
Right.
I'm just gonna say it gets boring.
Well, yeah, if you're bored, everyone else is bored too.
Yeah. And they read it, and I get shit on a lot. You remember when I was visiting you, and even then, like in person, it was like you were watching me like reset myself.
Yeah.
I still do it every now and then. I'm not as bad as I used to be, thank God. But I'd be like, moment of silence for John's brain, people.
And
he's back.
It's like he took the game out, blew in it really quick, stuck it back in, restarted it.
Absolutely.
We're good.
But it works. It works wonderfully when it's working.
We're good.
So, sad baby. We're getting ready to wrap up. Just before we do that, it's throwing me off. Baby, don't cry. Go see mommy. That's gonna be a great part in the podcast. Edit that out after the live.
I don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah, it's almost over. What's your goal this year? I know you posted a picture of your incubator and you said we will fill it this year.
Yeah.
What are you shooting for with 200 breeders? Like what's that clutch limit we're hoping for?
Well, I don't have 200 breeders. I have 200 total.
Just 200.
Yeah, total. I probably have 20, 25 in the whole back rack right now. Okay. And then other females that are just not quite there, that are almost there, they're in 40s right now. But I think 50 clutches is a good number. I think my record's like 37. And then last year took a dip just because I bred differently with the stranger, and I learned a lot about how females get going, in regarding to needing those pairings early and not just waiting till you see a female at a certain follicle and then pairing her. Some females need to get paired to start the follicle growth. And so I had a bunch of females that didn't go last year. So last year I got a lot less clutches than the year prior. So this year I'm hoping to leapfrog and double, at least double what I did.
Yeah. That would be amazing, dude. That's a lot of work. I kind of feel like if you hit 50 clutches, one, kudos to you.
Yeah.
Two, I think at that point you're kind of looking at full time, whether you want it to be or not.
I don't think I can do just one. I don't think I can do just one job.
Yeah. That's a full-time gig. Because you're looking, it's at least I would say at least 300 babies. Probably pushing closer to 4 with the size of a lot of your females.
Yeah. Yeah. Between 8 and 12 eggs, typically. Yeah. I fortunately work a lot of shows in my local area. So if you're in California, if you're in Northern California, you go to the Bay Area shows. If you go to the Central Valley shows, I'm typically there. And so a lot of that stuff moves there. And then a lot of the online sales, that's the good part. Upset. I'm upset. That was the good part about YouTube is, you know, showing people what you were doing, pairings, breeding, getting people excited about what was about to drop before you ever posted it. So
Shh. Come on.
bring her in. Come on. It's all good.
It's him now.
Oh.
The littlest one. He should.
He's all
Don't
right
be
now.
sad.
All good now.
It's all good. Well, guys, make sure you check out Nick. We're going to have to get this little knucklehead all situated. But make sure you check out Nick. I'm going to let him do his little outro, where to find him, why you should be following him, all that good stuff.
All right.
Away, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. Anytime I get to talk reptiles with people, it's a privilege. I'm on YouTube. I will be on YouTube more, but there is a lot of videos up there already. Instagram is where I typically post, on Facebook too. I guess I need to get a TikTok if I need to stay relevant. So I got to open up a TikTok account. But I just really appreciate the love and support overall over the years, guys. This has been incredible. And I just feel very blessed to be a part of this community and a part of being around so many awesome people.
Okay. You say bye? Say bye, Nick. Say bye, Nick.
Give me some deuces. Throw up the piece.
Give him a pound.
Oh, I can do that. Here we go.
Pound him.
Got it.
There you go. Boom. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for watching. Like I said, make sure you go follow Nick. He's a great dude. Has some amazing animals on Morph Market right now. The link is down below. Also, his Instagram's down there, so you can check out all the cool stuff he's producing. Brother, thank you again.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure to get to talk to you as anytime I get. Hopefully we can do it again soon.
Yes, sir. Anytime.
Y'all have a great night. We'll see you next week.